Good morning. My name is Sam. I am an alcoholic. I'm also a son of recovery. Let's start out with a serenity prayer. Good and gracious God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. So I am reading through the AA book, The 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, and I'm on tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Autonomy is a $10 word, but in relation to us, it means very simply that every AA group can manage its affairs exactly as it pleases, except when AA as a whole is threatened. Comes now the same question raised in Tradition 1. Isn't such liberty foolishly dangerous? Over the years, every conceivable deviation from our 12 steps and traditions has been tried. That was sure to be. Since we are so largely a band of ego-driven individualists, children of chaos, we have defiantly played with every brand of fire, only to emerge unharmed and, we think, wiser. These very deviations created a vast process of trial and error which, under the grace of God, has brought us to where we stand today. When AA's traditions were first published in 1946, we had become sure that an AA group could stand almost any amount of battering. We saw that the group, exactly like the individual, must eventually conform to whatever tested principles would guarantee survival. We had discovered that there was perfect safety in the process of trial and error. So confident of this had we become that the original statement of AA tradition carried the significant sentence, "Any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that, as a group, they have no other affiliation." This meant, of course, that we had been given the courage to declare each AA group an individual entity strictly reliant on its own conscience as a guide to action. In charting this enormous expanse of freedom, we found it necessary to post only 2 storm signals. A group ought not to do anything that would greatly injure AA as a whole, nor ought it affiliate itself with anything or anybody else. There would be real danger should we commence to call some groups wet, others dry, still others Republican or Communist, or others Catholic or Protestant. The AA group would have to stick to its course or be hopelessly lost. Sobriety had to be its sole objective. In all other respects, there was perfect freedom of will and action. Every group had the right to be wrong. When AA was still young, lots of eager groups were forming. In a town we'll call Middleton, a real crackerjack had started up. The townspeople were as hot as firecrackers about it. Stargazing, the elders dreamed of innovations. They figured the town needed a great big alcoholic center, a kind of pilot plant AA groups could duplicate everywhere. Beginning on the ground floor, there would be a club. In the second story, they would sober up drunks and hand them currency for their back debts. The third deck would house an educational project, quite non-controversial, of course. In imagination, the gleaming center was to go up several stories more, but 3 would do for a start. This would all take a lot of money, other people's money. Believe it or not, wealthy townsfolk bought the idea. There were, though, a few conservative dissenters among the alcoholics. They wrote the Foundation, AA's headquarters in New York, wanting to know about this sort of streamlining. They understood that the elders, just to nail things down good, were about to apply to the Foundation for a charter. These few were disturbed and skeptical. Of course, there was a promoter in the deal, a super promoter. By his eloquence, he allayed all fears despite advance from the Foundation that it could issue no charter, and that ventures which mixed an AA group with medication and education had come to sticky ends elsewhere. To make things safer, the promoter organized 3 corporations and became president of all of them. Freshly painted, the new center shone. The warmth of it all spread through the town. Soon things began to hum. To ensure foolproof, continuous operation, 61 rules and regulations were adapted. But alas, this bright scene was not long in darkening. Confusion replaced serenity. It was found that some drunks yearned for education, but doubted if they were if they were alcoholics. The personality defects of others could be cured maybe with a loan. Some were club-minded, but it was just a question of taking care of the lonely heart. Sometimes the swarming applicants would go for all 3 floors. Some would start at the top and come through to the bottom, becoming club members. Others started in the club, pitched a binge, were hospitalized, then graduated to education on the 3rd floor. It was a beehive of activity, all right, but unlike a beehive, it was confusion compounded. An AA group, as such, simply couldn't handle this sort of project. All too late, that was discovered. Then came the inevitable explosion. Something like that day, the boiler burst in the Wombly's clapboard factory. A chill, choke damp of fear and frustration fell over the group. When that lifted, a wonderful thing had happened. The head promoter wrote the foundation office. He said he wished he'd paid some attention to AA experience. Then he did something else that was to become an AA classic. It all went on a little card about golf score size. The cover read, Middleton Group Number 1, Rules Number 62. Once the card was unfolded, a single pungent sentence leaped to the eye. Don't take yourself too damn seriously. Thus, it was that under Tradition 4, an AA group had exercised its right to be wrong. Moreover, it had performed a great service for Alcoholics Anonymous because it had been humbly willing to apply the lessons it learned. It had picked itself up with a laugh and gone on to better things. Even the chief architect, standing in the ruins of his dream, could laugh at himself, and that is the very acme of humility. So, each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Sobriety has to be the sole objective. And that is true. Sobriety has to be the sole objective. We definitely have groups that meet that are women's groups or men's groups or LGBTQ oriented, and those are all fine and good. And because sometimes we need just to be with those around people that we want to be. I can't explain it, but that we're more comfortable with. And it helps those to come to sobriety a little easier if they know that those groups exist. I know my group was just a big old group of people. And predominantly redneck. I think a lot of them would say that. In fact, I know a lot of them would say that. But it was a great group, and I loved it. And we had men and women and people of all ages, and it was fantastic. But I have been to LGBTQ meetings before, and I've been to men's groups. But I also know that if I were to walk into a women's group, and that was the only group that I could go to, they would not turn me away. Just like a men's group wouldn't turn a woman away, or LGBTQ wouldn't turn straight people away, because the point is sobriety. And if you are needing that group at that moment, you go to that group and you do it. No one's going to turn you away for not being there. But like they said, we don't affiliate ourselves with other things besides AA, besides just being an AA group. Because it starts to murky the waters and make things a little unsure of how to unsure. And so, yeah, the lesson of that and others that have done it, have tried to, are very clear. And you can read more of this, too. I've heard of some that have tried to add things to an AA group or house, and it just has not worked out. So with that, I leave you. Please leave any comments, questions, or thoughts, and blessings.